feeling like talking about something, but I don't know what. So I'll just talk to myself. I'm laughing because there's somebody I'm having an issue with, and I just looked at this. I just happened to. I left the grid on, the TV channels have the grid, and I looked up, and the person's name is there, and it's saying, "I'll be seeing you," like somebody I'm trying to get rid of in my mind. And I just happened to look up just now. And I was like, oh, synchronicity. I wore 3 gray shirts in a row. This one, I bleached it by accident. I had it in the bathroom, and then I bleached something else. And then I guess bleach flew. That's how life is. I'm trying to, I don't know. I've been trying to figure out things, and I just feel like everything's fake right now, and I just feel like I'm living in a fake world, and I'm not fake. Meaning, it's not just fake news, which a lot of it is fake news, but just everybody's full of shit, and I guess they've always been to some degree, but now it's just like, I don't know, I just feel so out of it, not like I can't think or anything. Like the last couple days I was nervous as heck. Then I just looked on an astrology website, and I noticed that it's like Aries, the sun's in Aries, the moon is now in Taurus, Mercury is in Aries, and the was it Venus was in Aries, which means yesterday and the day before probably the moon was in Aries, so all those things were in Aries. I'm like, no, I was such a nervous wreck. I kept being like, I can't be in the house. I gotta stay outside. My nerves, And I know I just talked about it, a bunch of nonsense, stupid astrology stuff, but it's true. I have Mars in Aries. I'm Sagittarius. I have Moon in Leo. So all that fire. It'd be good if I was like a marathon runner, or I was working on, I had somewhere constructive to put my energy. When you don't have somewhere constructive to put your energy, you go crazy. I also think that's how you get fat, but whatever. Like, if you're supposed to be like, certain people can just live one way and other people shouldn't. Like people like me, I should have had a career or a job or something where I was moving all day. By sitting, even at a desk job, because that's when I had started to gain weight, way back, sitting at a desk. And I'm not saying standing either. I'm saying moving all day. So if you can be a dancer, or be a, tennis pro, or, what else could you do? Some job where you're just going back and forth all the time, nothing behind a counter, nothing behind a desk, something where you just go. I think that's where I went wrong. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be a rockette, but like I said, I didn't grow. So I thought that's all there was. But I didn't have money to keep going to dancing school anyway. And when I sometimes I kick myself about that. I keep watching. The only thing that's making me happy the last couple of days of calming me down is to keep rewatching that clip from Tom Holland on what you call it, that lip sync battle. I don't have that channel, so I didn't watch the show, but I just keep watching it, and I'm like, this kid makes me wish I never stopped dancing, And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, you know what? My favorite, because like I said, I wanted to be a dancer. I love dancing. I love musicals. So my favorite scene, one individual scene from any movie, is John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever dancing to You Should Be Dancing, right? The Bee Gees song, on the floor with all the lights. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking about it, rewatching this clip of Tom Holland, and I'm like, you know what? In terms of performance, like dancing performance, I'm like, he's like right there with John Travolta. I'm not even kidding. And this wasn't in a movie. This was just something he did on a silly show. I don't know that he meant it to be a big deal, but I'm like, geez, that's just right up there. Because when I think of big, I mean, if I'm thinking of West Side Story or any kind of movie where there's big dance numbers, I'm like, that was better. That was just so much more impressive where you just zoom in. And I'm just like, so I keep watching and I'm like, gee, I wish I had kept dancing. But then I'm like, I got blocks on things. That's why when my life went a certain way, it wasn't like I didn't try or I gave up. It was just blocks, like dead ends. You turn right, there's a dead end. You turn left, there's a dead end. You go straight ahead, there's a dead end. You go that way, there's a dead end. Everywhere there's a dead end. And at some point you feel like the universe is telling you no. This is not it. And so when I was a kid, we didn't have money, or dance at school went up, and I knew we didn't have money. So, and they wanted to change the class and everything, so I was like, forget it. This is one of my major mistakes, I feel like, even though there wasn't a lot I could do about it. These were decisions I made as a kid, like 13, 14 years old, that I should have like begged to still go or just done one class. But I knew we didn't have money, so I didn't. And then so like the whole dancing thing stopped. But then when I went to college, I tried to take classes within the school. I took a tap class at NYU. I took, you know, um, ballroom dancing in the gym part. What was the name of the gym now? All I'm seeing is the stupid bobcat. Anyway, I can't remember the name of the gym. Anyway, so the gym had classes, right? So that you could take. So I took ballroom there, and it was a nightmare because everything, like, I'm not a competitive person. That's what stopped me from doing a lot of things. It didn't stop me, but it was like I don't want to be around that kind of energy. I don't want to be around people who um I don't want to be better than other people. I want to do my best, but I don't want to be better than other people. So if people are like wanting to fight me for something, or they want to win something, I'll be like, go ahead and have, if it means that much to you. You know what I mean? I don't want to be in competition with people and stuff like that. And that's why in situations like that, when you're in a school with a bunch of actors, and and I wasn't in acting school, but I just lived amongst them because I lived in Reuben Hall, you know, and it's just like I don't have that wanting to be better than other people thing, competition thing. So I would just be like, oh, okay, whatever, you know what I mean? But like I said, I tried to take tap. I did take tap. I'm gonna try to take it again. I think this was. I feel like it wasn't a gym class, but it must have been. Because why I'm saying a gym class would be like, it was at the gym in the school, but you would like pay like $35 or something at the time to be in the class. It wasn't like a class. But I feel I took voice, which was awful as well, and because these were like throwaway classes that people took, like, or they thought of them that way, like, how people would say their senior year they'll take basket weaving or something. So these were like those kind of voice, and I feel like tap, it couldn't have been an actual class, but I don't feel like I paid for it. I remember thinking that I did ballroom. I know ballroom was an extra thing that I paid for on the side. I don't feel like tap was, because we didn't meet at any gym building. We met in normal classroom space. So anyway, but I had taken tap as a kid, but it was like, that's the other thing, when I took these classes in school, it didn't seem like they didn't teach, or it didn't seem serious. It seemed like hanging around and, okay, go like this, go like that. Even the voice class, I wanted to learn about voice and how to control this. It was like, okay, do this. And they would make some noise and you were supposed to sing, and it was like, you're going to explain to me how to breathe or control or anything. No. You know what I mean? So it was just like, why am I in school? Because, I mean, I didn't have money. Everything was scholarships and loans and stuff like that. So I guess, beggars can't be choosers. It was a good school supposedly, but there was so many classes I took that I'm like, I'm not learning a damn thing here. These people, they collect a good salary or whatever, and they got their professor, so they get to be fancy, but they can't convey anything for shit, especially in my majors and stuff. But like with dance and stuff, it would make me mad. Acting was the class everybody took senior year, and that was just like a joke class, and it was like, why though? And I'm not talking about anybody can get in a room and, hey guys, let's all pretend to act. Hey guys, let's all pretend to sing. Hey guys, let's all pretend to tap dance. If somebody's not showing you stuff like this official thing, like this is how you do this step and this is how you control your vocal cords or God knows what, or this is what this means and this is what that means. If they're not actually explaining things to you, how is it a class? You know what I mean? If they're just telling you to do stuff, okay, sing now. You know what I mean? But like, what always got me, like when I would hear about Mariah Carey, I would hear about these people, and I would watch people, then they would talk about range, or they would talk about singing in a certain key. I'm like, I never learned that. I never learned what singing in a key meant. Like, how do you like, they, people, you see them on something, they walk up, oh yeah, do it in this key because they're gonna sing with the piano guy. I don't know any of that stuff. I'm like, I took a class. And I was in Glee Club as a kid. It's just like, at no point did anybody teach me basic things you're supposed to learn. And I just sit there, I'm like, this is what I mean about the blocks I had along the way. It was just like, I wasn't going further than I already was. So sometimes I think maybe in my last life, I was a dancer, singer person, and some kind of entertainer, and I come into this life thinking that I'm supposed to do that, but I'm getting a headache. I don't know why. All of a sudden, I'm getting a headache. I put a candle on, but it smells nice, but I'm just like, all of a sudden, getting a headache. The only thing, I had just gone out to throw away garbage. I don't think it was that allergy-like, but I really feel like I'm getting a tension headache. Yeah. So yeah, I've been watching this kid, and every once in a while I think, gee, why wasn't I a dancer? Because every step of the way, I got blocked. And I was also thinking about going to NYU and how I thought I was going there to learn, and the minute I get there, it's like, but what have you already done? And it was like, if I went, I didn't go to be an actor, but it was like, the idea was like, okay, well, what have you done already? It was like you weren't going there to learn, you were already supposed to have done it. Like, you wouldn't, like, say you wanted to go there to be an actor, you wouldn't go there to learn to be an actor. They'd be like, well, if you wanted to be an actor, why weren't you in drama club in high school? So it's like, you get there and it's like, well, you're already supposed to know this. They almost did the same thing with languages. It's like I didn't take Spanish, I didn't major in Spanish, but it's almost like, well, are you Spanish? Like when I took Russian, me and this girl, Carolyn, she's Vietnamese, I think, and we were both taking Russian, and so the teacher tells us, oh, to practice you go to the Russian club, like there's a Russian club meeting, right? So you go there, there's like a few Russians in there, and they're like, oh, do you guys speak Russian? It's like, we just got here, no. So it was like a place for Russians. It was like, do you play chess? It was like, no. So everything was like, okay, in order for me to be in the Russian club, I need to already speak Russian. You know what I mean? And it was just like, the minute you get there, it was like you were already supposed to know stuff. And that, to me, was that competition crap that I didn't even understand. Not only was I not competitive, I didn't understand that's what it was, Because I was like dumb, and I was like, I'm here to learn, yay! But yeah, I was just thinking about that, and I'm telling myself, yeah, if that was what was meant for you, it would have happened, But every step of so many things I pursued was like block after block after block, over and over again. Not like even people sometimes, just circumstances, or, but I had a lot of bad, I had a lot of bad teachers, meaning not bad people, people who could not teach, like they could not convey a message, which is funny now because I know the way I am. I know the way I explain things. I think as if I knew anything, I would be a good teacher in the way of being able to explain. Because I think I'm good at explaining. I just don't know nothing to explain. But I don't know. Yes, I was sitting there looking at this and thinking and being like, gee, you know. And then for so many years, you know, as a movie fan, I used to complain all over the place about wanting there to be musicals and stuff, and then there were some, and then they didn't do good. And then I'm just looking at these guys, and I saw another after that. You know how YouTube recommends stuff, so it recommended some interview that Tom Holland had done, and him and Jake Gyllenhaal together, and I'm looking at them too. And I saw Jake twice on Broadway, and I'm just like, why aren't there musicals? I'm so whiny about that, but I'm coming from the perspective now. Everything I talk about, I'm coming from the perspective that it's the end of the world, because even though everybody's trying to churn things back up, once we were getting this pandemic, I put it in my head that the world's ending, and I'm not able to reset, and I'm not able to refocus on the future, because I still don't think there is one. I mean, I hope it's just me, and I hope everybody else has a nice life, but I can't see us going back to the way it was, and I can't picture what the future would be like. Say they do something where the elites are the only ones who have a real life, right? I can't picture how it would happen. Like I said, I'm trying to catch up rereading 1984, and I'm reading it, and I'm just looking, and I'm like, this might as well be, you know, what this might as well be what the nighttime news is, just describing where we're headed. And the thing is, I always knew that, and I always thought that that book was scary when I was a kid, and I always remembered that this is what we don't want to ever happen, and this is why we have to be involved in politics, and this is why we have to, you know what's going on, because you don't want to end up down that road, you know. So as I'm sitting there thinking about it, and I'm really not being able to function in any kind of meaningful way, because I'm just like, it's done though, isn't it? Aren't we done? Isn't it over? What? I just feel like, and this week, I feel like I want to say like I have a head cold. I feel like that right now, because like I said, I was getting a headache, but I just feel like I couldn't concentrate if you paid me to. You know what I mean? I think the heat's coming on, yeah. I was like, what's all that cracking? The heat's coming on. It's still cold. What is this? It's April 13th. It's still kind of cold, and I'm not complaining, because I don't like the heat. I don't like hot weather, but the temperature's going like between 70 and the 30s, and it's like, I just wish it would hover around the 50s. Like if you woke up and it was 50, and you went to bed and it was, and in the middle of the day it was 60, and then you went to bed and it was 50 again. But it never goes below that, you know what I mean? Just so you can get used to and have a month or two where it's do stuff weather, and you're not freezing in the house, or you gotta put a bunch of stuff on, and you're not freezing outside, and you're able to go do yard stuff if you want, or but you're not too hot, because I can't deal with heat. So I'm just like, I guess I'm saying everything is not going the way it's supposed to. Nothing is regular. Nothing is behaving the way things would normally behave. April's not acting like April. March didn't act like March. It was too cold. And it's not too cold right now. It's still just, in my mind, it's a little bit cold, because you're going, if at 7 o'clock at night, well, it's almost 8 o'clock, the heat's coming on, I don't feel like the heat should be coming on. I feel like it shouldn't be getting that low at night, you know? Consistently. I mean, if it happens one day. But, so it's like, it's not, we're supposed to be adjusting all the time. We're supposed to be changing things. I don't see it happening. Yesterday, or was it this morning? Anyways, I think it was this morning. There was a story about the Arclight cinema closing in LA. Now, I've never been to Los Angeles, but as a movie buff, listening to other people, especially people who talk about Oscars and who live there and are part of the scene, they always talk about these cinemas, and they're closing for permanent. And for permanent. Sometimes I don't even know who's in my head talking in this way. Anyway, I know that's a big deal. And I see that and I'm like, see, this is what I mean. Things must be closing or closed or on the brink of closure. Big things that shouldn't be closed down. But nobody's reporting it because all they do is talk about vaccines all day. So, and vaccines. What accent is that? Anyway, so I'm looking at it and I'm like, see, this is what I mean. But then the flip side of that is I start seeing directors tweet it like, oh my God. And I've said this before. Why don't these assholes buy the theater? Get their money together, buy the damn thing. Because the one who tweeted is not that rich or anything. But still, I think it might have been David Ayer. And he was retweeting James Gunn. I think they're the ones who were, and I'm like, they've got money. They're not poor, but I'm just like, what's wrong with these rich people? Because there's so many rich people who have so much, and this pandemic, they sit there and they panic about shit, and it's like, you guys could be fixing things with your goddamn money. You know, you could have been fixing it before. I complained for years about, like, Scorsese complaining about art houses not showing movies anymore or whatever, or everything being about the Cineplex. And I always said, well, why doesn't he get his rich friends, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, all those guys, buy up all the art cinemas and show whatever freaking movies he wants? They have the money to do it, you know? But I don't know if they want everybody else to do it or they think the government should do it. Because, like, in the beginning of the pandemic, when New York was closed, you know, and they started shutting everything down, Jerry Seinfeld had done an op-ed in the New York Times, I think, and he was all pissed. Oh my God, you gotta save the comedy clubs. And I was like, what? The whole world needed money. People needed stimulus money. People needed food. And Jerry Seinfeld was bitching about the comedy clubs need to be saved. And I said to myself, and it wasn't just about comedy clubs, it was about all the small venues. But in his case particularly, talking about comedy clubs, I was like, freaking buy it. That man is worth so much money. He's got to be worth $500 million at least. Okay? And when I lived in New York, again, this is 20 years ago, but when I lived there, he had rented out like floors of a car garage for his cars because he has all those fancy freaking cars. That's how he made that show, Comedians Getting Coffee or Driving to Go Get Coffee, whatever the hell it's called. That's why he has all those cars. And it's like, you have money to pay an exorbitant amount of rent in Manhattan for cars, then you're a very rich man way back when, you know. But when the pandemic happened and he was complaining in the paper, I'm like, are you serious? People need help from the government. Regular folks who have no money, people who lost their jobs. And he thought government really needed to focus on the comedy clubs and small venues. And I was like, why don't you buy the comedy clubs? I mean, there are several comedy clubs in Manhattan. Just for the hell of it, say there's a dozen. You don't have to buy the whole building. He could have sustained them places himself if it was so freaking important. As an American, he could have helped out the system that way instead of having taxpayer dollars be allocated to that, which is what he wanted. He may have gotten it. I think a lot of these small venues that people were probably, you know, these regional theaters and stuff, people didn't have money to go to those things anyway, so some of them probably got saved. If there was like, what what was it? They didn't call it stimulus money. Poo, 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 poo. The private personal loans, whatever the hell they were called, the PPP loans. If like small little regional theaters were getting that money, they may have been saved because they were probably not getting people in the theater. They probably were on the verge of closing before any of this happened. You know. So when I saw that, I was like, what the hell's wrong with these people? When you know, somebody like Jerry Seinfeld, like I said, so all this stuff, all these things should have been closing down. If the government went out of their way to prop up things that may have closed down on their own anyway, that may never come back, and they threw all that money at this stuff when people were only given such a little amount. No, and this is what I'm saying. I still don't know what the rules are. We don't know what their plans are. We don't know what they're doing. Again, the news only talks about vaccines. God knows what Biden's pushing through or Congress is pushing through. But between the vaccines and George Floyd trial and them constantly updating you on how many, oh, yep, Prince Philip's still dead. You know, this is what they talk about. This is what they do, and it's like, I have no concept of what's going on or where I'm at or where the world's at. So I end up sitting here watching Tom Holland over and over again because I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But there was another story, wasn't there? A movie story. There was another movie story. This is the thing, like I bought the month of HBO Max. I'm supposed to be 4 more days of it. I haven't watched anything. I haven't watched anything in a week. I went through and I put some things on a list. I didn't watch any of it. I still haven't. I was going to do it now and I end up saying, no, I feel like talking to nobody. I was going to finish watching Godzilla vs. Kong and I can't force myself to do it. And then all the other things I put on the list, I haven't watched that either. You know? Then they said, oh, there's this new show, The Nevers, and it's like Victorian women fighting something. I was like, oh, for crying out loud, I don't want to watch that. Once I saw what the synopsis was. And it's just like, nothing's worth it. You kind of get riled up. You want to... I just would like to know how everybody became so stupid. Can't tell quality, can't tell truth from fiction. Can't understand that vaccines are not safe until they've been used on people over and over again, and then you find out how many side effects or complications there were. That's why a lot of people want to wait, and they act like we're stupid or we're conspiracy theorists or we're these horrible people because we have common sense to wait. And it's just like, that's why I say I'm never going to find people who understand me. And I'm not looking for people to understand me. It's just, if you think about going back into the world, I always was an oddball anyway, and I just got odder over time. So the whole point in being alive and being around and having a job and doing things is to associate with other human beings, you know? And if you're not going to do that, there's not really a point. So when I look at stuff and I just see how everything is, and I feel like, yeah, every time the news comes out with some other new thing that they just figured out is bad about what they're doing, I'm like, yeah, I said that. I said that in the beginning. I told you guys. You know what I mean? Over a year ago on Twitter, I was saying, this is going to happen. You can't do this. You can't shut things down. You're never going to stop the spread. This is stupid. Oh, my God. People aren't going to go outside. They're not going to get vitamin D. Everything I said, they end up eventually, months later, getting to that. I'm sorry I'm such a super genius. I'm not. It's just common sense. If you listen and pay attention and you say, okay, that doesn't make sense. Don't they know this already? Just from being alive. It's not even wisdom. It's just experience and knowing how things are. I looked at it and it was 29.29. I don't mind if nobody listens to what I'm saying. I told you, it's like notes from the underground for me. I'm just rambling on Because I swear, like I said, I really feel like if it's not the end of the world, I'm gonna be so pissed because I don't I don't know what to do. My skin's getting worse. I don't even know why. I didn't eat any potatoes today. Yes, I did. I lied. I went to Burger King. That's the other thing too. I can't stop going to Burger King. I buy off the dollar menu, so I do my best to not splurge. But that's what I used to do. So I like to sit at a booth. I like to look out the window, and that's how I think my thoughts. And you know, my thoughts are so different. They're not different. I feel like a different person. I feel taller. I feel more one pick a card reading said don't be rigid. I feel more rigid. I feel like I'm turning into an army sergeant or something. I feel like I'm just like turning into a mean dude who's just sick of everybody's shit and just wants to yell at everybody. So yeah, it's just like this. I don't live in Rhode Island, but I put it on Rhode Island channel as default, and they have their stupid town halls and stuff, and I don't understand. It's right there. I'm in Massachusetts, right? It's right there. It just seems like the people there, man, the whole state is just, dude, I don't know. It's like they're newscasters and they're officials and everybody. They're all like so ghetto compared to Boston. I don't know, and I'm not saying the people in Boston are that magical or anything. It's just like, you know, Boston acts sort of like New York in terms of having, you know, metropolitan area and metropolitan type people. And then, you know, a little ways away, it's like Hicks. It's like, how are you not getting that influence? And it, like I said, down here there's Hicks too, but it's still different somehow. It's I blame the school systems or whatever, but it's just weird. So I'm looking at it, I'm like trying to form my sentences, and I'm looking at this weird new governor they had, because the crappy one they had before is now going to do some economy shit for the whole country, and she was awful. Yeah, that's just another example of things that are wrong. That woman's the last person who should have got a promotion because she stunk up doing her job as governor of Rhode Island, and then she gets, it's all this, the idiots have taken over. The lunatics are running the asylum. And, you know, like I said, you read in 1984, and like I said, I read that book as a kid. So say I read it more than 30 years ago. I read it around the time of 1984 actually happening. And it's like, if somebody put a sign on the wall, don't do this or the world will end, don't do this or everything will suck forever, and it had a list of things not to do, and everybody saw the list, and everybody saw the list for 30 years, and they're like, they did all the stupid shit that the sign says not to do, to make sure the world comes either to an end or just becomes the worst possible outcome for most people. And it's like, oh man, this is the other thing that happens to me. Suddenly I get my old age time, and I gotta go night night because old people aren't supposed to stay up past 8 o'clock at night. Yeah, nothing's making sense to me right now. Nothing's making sense. I believe everything's a lie, is what I'm saying. I believe, like, okay, so I didn't like the Snyder Cut, right? I got the HBO Max. They're talking about Godzilla versus Kong, and talking about what a success it is. And I said it is. How do you know? Because there's no more box office. Really, I mean, yeah, people did go see it. I know they did. And that's the kind of movie that should drag people back to the theater. I'm not going to the theater. I said my movie going experience was over. It is, mostly because I'm not going to sit in a mask for all that time. throughout this whole thing, the most amount of time I've spent in a mask is on the bus. The minute I get off that bus, I take it down. In the house, obviously, I don't wear a mask. I don't go anywhere to need to have a mask on all the time. When I walk down the street, I have it below my chin, and I breathe in the air because I'm in the outdoors. So, for me to pay a bunch of money to see a movie that might suck in a group of people that might have germs and not be able to breathe, forget it. You know what I mean? That's why I said, and you know, even at this point, if the movie going experience comes back, which I still don't think it will. This is what I'm saying. I can't. If that Arclight cinema went out of business, is going out of business, unless people come in and save it, which I don't even know if they should. But if they're going to complain, they should, because like I said, they're loaded by the damn thing. But I believe things are quietly closing, or things are about to close. And if it all happens at once, which it could, then it'll open up a new nightmare. It'll open up a new crisis that, for whatever reason, people aren't anticipating. I think economists are lying to themselves. I think economists are going by the fake it till you make it philosophy. I think that, you know, this is what Trump did, and this is what people didn't understand about what he was doing and why he was doing it, but he was right. Because as long as you're judging things by the stock market works because everybody thinks things are going to be great. So if you keep saying things are going to be great, the stocks are going to go up. The stock market's going to do better. That's going to supposedly be a great economy. And everybody's going to be happy. Everything's going to be supposedly fine. If you're judging everything by the stock market. So as long as you judge by the stock market, and the stock market's going up or staying steady, that's great. You don't want the stock market to go down. So people start selling their stocks and do stuff like that when they think there's trouble ahead, or when they think things are going to be bad. So the way to have the stock market keep being up is to just pretend it is. Pretend everything's great. Pretend everything's going to be wonderful. You know what I mean? And then people will buy stocks instead of sell them. And then it'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy in that the stock market will keep going up. Like I said, for poor people who don't own stocks and who just have to buy things like milk and bread and, you know, pay rent and stuff, that's not their economy. And like I said, they don't report on that economy anymore. And that's the economy, I think, that is still crapping out, that nobody's acknowledging. Movie theaters are something that require the poor people to go to them. And I don't think that poor people, there's going to be some people who go to theaters, but say everybody got vaccinated tomorrow and everybody was immune. I don't think people are going to go back to the theaters the way they did because of monetary reasons now, because of everything that has happened, because poor people went to the movies. And I'm certainly not going, for many reasons, but I don't have the money anyway. I don't think a lot of people have the money. I think a lot of people are stretched thin and they're just not reporting about it anymore, because the only way they knew how to report it was if they could see obvious lines of people wanting to get food, like lines of cars wanting to get food for from, what do you call them? Food banks. That was the only way they could report it. They didn't know how else to report it because they're so far removed. Reporters and people who write stories are so far removed from regular people. You know, they don't know how else, apart from looking at the employment rate, which is always bullshit, and it's always been bullshit. The unemployment rate. And that's how they judge everything. So they judge it by the stock market, which has nothing to do with poor people. They judge it by the unemployment rate, which doesn't count people who've stopped working and been off of collecting unemployment. So that's not an accurate number at all. And they judge it by obvious shit they can see. They can see a bunch of homeless people, and but they'll ignore that. They don't even act like those are people, so they don't even count them in their minds. So, like I said, I feel like there's probably this whole behind the scenes story going on that I don't know about. Nobody in the house knows about. You would have to be, probably cops know. You know what I mean? Or emergency room people. They probably know the real story. because things can't be going right. Things can't be chugging along. I can't buy that, you know. Every once in a while there's a new story about a new group of people who are going insane. Everybody's going to be going insane. But they're not saying anything about it besides, well, what does it mean when they go insane? What happens to them then? You know, nobody's talking about that. I don't know, they're just still focusing us on the rich people and what the rich people are doing. And like I said, I'm still seeing Oscar stuff. They showed all the people with their Zoom BAFTAs, and I think it was Zoom BAFTAs. I didn't even watch a second of it. I watched like 2 seconds of the Golden Globes that time, and I fell asleep, and I didn't care to go back and watch any of the videos because I had nothing to do with those movies. But they're acting like it's a normal year, and like people care, and I'm like, do people care? Are people tuning into this stuff? I don't know. I'm not hearing ratings. I'm not hearing anything that would give you a clear picture of how things are going. All I'm hearing is them reporting it like it's normal, and that to me they're doing to fake it till we make it. So keep faking everything's normal until people go along with it. People start buying, people start working again. People go back to work in offices, which I didn't think that was going to start happening. Now it looks like they're going to try to push people to do it. Which I thought they were going to make the options, you know, they were going to change the whole thing and use office buildings for, turn it into housing for low-income housing instead of being empty office buildings when everybody works from home. I thought we were going to move into that kind of future. But now, to listen to the media, they think everybody's going to go back to work soon. Like, once everybody's vaccinated, everybody's going to go back to work in the office. I didn't think that was going to happen. I don't think a lot of people who work from home, I think a lot of people were liking it. You know, they didn't like having to work from home and teach their kids. But if they don't have to do both, if the kids do go back to school and they can work, I think a lot of people will choose to work from home. And then that will cause the buildings to be empty or half empty. And then what will the rents be for those offices? You know what I mean? So the crisis that was happening looked like it was going to change things in a way. Now it looks like they're trying to not change it, and they want to force it to go back. Which, what kind of government, what kind of leaders are dumb enough to try to force the genie back in the bottle? It's out. You uncork the bottle. You let the genie out. It was your idea to do a great reset and have everything be completely screwed up forever. But now you want to act like it's not screwed up to try to trick people into behaving like they did before. This is what I'm saying. None of this makes any kind of freaking sense. And when I do think about it, I just start walking around like, what the hell's going on? You know? Like Travolta in that thing where he's like, you know, from Pulp Fiction. And I can't form a sentence. I can't figure out anything if I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm not that kind of person. My brain, this is a big problem for me. And I would love to know how to solve it, because I tried reading books about focusing and stuff like that. As long as there's a problem, a question, a conundrum, I can't think about other shit until the problem is solved. The equation. You know, this thing over here doesn't make sense. I can't move on until I've made sense about it. So to live in a world right now where nothing makes sense, and I'm supposed to figure out how to come up with something to have a life in the future, I'm like, but nothing makes sense. And all my mind does is get fixated on things that don't make sense, because I got to figure them out first. If I can't figure it out, I can't do it. To say I have no faith, or, you know, I can't, you know, leap without looking. I can't. You know, I need to have some basis for, you know, I can believe in fantasy movies, and I can believe in, you know, hobbits and stuff like that. But in reality, it makes more sense to have the Dark Knight, where Gotham is a real place, instead of, you know, Infinity Stones and stuff like that, you know. So if you want me to make decisions to do something, I need things to be based in reality. And right now, it doesn't seem like reality is based in reality. Like we're getting into newspeak. We're getting into all the stuff from 1984 where everything's a total lie. You know? And you're just, what they're talking about coming through the TV in the mornings on the news and the nighttime news and all this stuff, it has nothing to do with what you're going through. And it was like that before. But in the middle of a pandemic where people are still not completely locked in the house, but people still need to know what the government's up to. You can't have people wondering what the hell's going on and having no scope. I went to the library today and I saw a librarian guy I hadn't seen in a long time. And I asked him, is there any news? Because I keep wanting to know if there's any news on the street, if there's any, not gossip, but if there's any word of mouth about how things are going or anything like that. His original thing was, so his first thing, his thought was to tell me that we were in the red. And I thought he meant that the library was in economic trouble. But he was saying that he meant like red. You know how there were the alert systems for terrorist warnings, and it was like red and orange and yellow. At some point they had made those kind of things for COVID. I never even paid attention to that, and that's what he's talking about. He's like, well, we were in the orange or we were in the yellow, but we went back to orange. And I was like, I'm sitting there going, what the hell is he talking about? And then I'm like saying to myself, and I'm trying to listen to him, and I'm like, I want to say something, but I'm like, I have not, at no point in time, have I, every day they do the COVID numbers. And it's just, to me, like they're saying, you know, water's wet. No kidding. But I haven't been saying, oh, the numbers went up, the numbers went down. I saw them do this with the British people because they have some kind of rate number, some kind of rate of infection or rate of something. And I'm going to end up putting this up without fixing the audio because this is too long. And I am going to put it up now because why the hell not? Anyway, so in England they had some kind of like the number was like 1 or the number was like negative 1.2 or something like that of rate of infection. And they were making all their decisions based on where the rate of infection was. So if you were really needing to know if you can open your shop or whatever, and you lived in England, you were probably waiting for the rate of infection to go below a certain number or something. And I think they were, and I think it went below the number and they didn't open up, and people were like, why aren't you opening up? So in that country, it's funny that I knew in England that they had this whole system. I completely forgot about this red and yellow, orange shit. And he's saying that to me, and I'm like, I was just like, oh my God, he's paying attention to the numbers every day. Like, it matters. And I'm not saying it doesn't matter to people who are sick and stuff like that. And I'm not saying it doesn't matter to people who, you know, it depends, the government decisions depend on what level we're at. But that's not news to me. That's news speak. That's propaganda. That's, you know what I mean? That's window dressing. That's not, that's the exact opposite of what I mean. Is there any news? You know? And I was just like, trying to think of something to say. And I'm like, this is the problem. I used to talk to these people all the time. I know in the last year, with the Trump thing and everything, we ended up completely on opposite ends. But that's the problem. You can't even ask if there's news now without it being, well, this is the silly news that I listen to that you're not interested in. Because we're not even on the same page about what's important or what we should even be talking about. Forget about our opinions on it. You know what I mean? So it's just like, and I have no problem with these people. I know they're good people, and I know that I know why they believe the things they believe. I just don't believe it with them. And they're on a totally different mindset from me about what any of this is about and all the things I'm saying. You know? And this is why, like I said, it's so hard to talk to people. I was in the bus, talking to the bus driver. I know she agrees with me because we already know we're on the same side. But sometimes, like I said, I'm not all the way on that side. Sometimes I think a little bit here and there is different. But if you don't allow for information to be shared, or, you know, maybe this is a little bit wrong, if you're just 100% down the line with your news source, then there's nothing to talk to you about either, unless we're all going to agree on the same shit and go, yes, 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 yes. I'm not that. So I'm talking to her about the this pause in the vaccine, and I'm telling her about it because she hadn't heard of it yet. And then of course somebody got to pipe in who I wasn't talking to. Oh, it's only 6 people. I'm like, well, you don't want to be one of those 6 people, you know. And it's like, if you think, well, it's only 6 people, right? All of us, all already, we're not of the same mindset. We're not coming from the same point of view, because I've said what I said. You can tell where I'm at. Now you've said, well, it's only 6 people. You're not thinking about human beings. You're thinking about a statistic. And this is what the left does, and this is what the people who are selling you vaccines does, and this is what the people who wanted to originally, who's it? Slow the curve? Does that make sense? Was it slow the curve? Whatever. They wanted to slow the spread. Something curve. I forgot what the curve part was. Anyway, they wanted to slow the spread. That was bullshit, because that means you didn't want to cure anybody. You didn't want to save anybody. You just wanted your statistics to get better. And if your statistics get better, then you could justify opening up. Or you could justify, you know, people going back to their jobs. Or you could justify kids going back to school if your statistics are better. It's not really about people and sickness and disease and quality of life and mental health. It's when you're just worried about the spread and you're worried about the level and you're, well, it's only 6 people, you're in statistic land. And statistic land is where the left lives. And all they want is their statistics. That's data. That's the decisions. That's the algorithms. That whole side, all these nice, wonderful people who supposedly care about people, have been treating people like numbers for 10 good years at least. You know? And that's where we're at. And I'm going off on a tangent. And my brain's going to melt now because I've gone too far. But the point is, yeah, I am scrambled eggs, brains, and I don't have scrambled eggs because I was eating eggs during the pandemic, and then I started getting sick from them again. Don't ask me. I don't know. I think I can only eat brand new fresh eggs. So if I can only eat brand new fresh eggs, and I'm by myself, and I gotta buy a dozen eggs, I gotta throw away like half a dozen eggs all the time. This is what I mean. You can't, when you're by yourself, when you're one person, it's so hard to do what everybody else is doing, do what all the families are doing, do what all the people who made the decisions are doing, because they think we all live the same lives, with the fridge full of ice cream and a chauffeur to drive you around. Like I said, to me, my whole thing is things should have collapsed by now. They haven't collapsed yet. I'm getting pissed because I needed them to have changed everything, or for the world to have ended by now. And neither of those two things have happened. And that's why this isn't brain fog. It's not me. You know, I feel it in the air. I've tried to go out a few times this week. You know, I've gone to the beach. I've hung around. I've gone for walks. I was in the park today. You know, I'm trying to center myself. And I'm like, this is not the same world. Not at all. There's a stupidity in the air. It has the dystopian feel already. And this is with people walking around, people going back. Not everybody's locked in the house anymore. People now, like invasions and body snatchers, when you're looking at the people and you're like, is that a person? Is that a pod person? Or is that really them? It feels like invasion and body snatchers once the pod people really started to take over, and you know, you're wondering around, is that really him? Is that Donald Sutherland? Is he a pod person now? What about her? You know what I mean? So you're seeing people and people are looking at each other, you know, almost like if you're gonna report to the KGB, you know, that person stole wood. I'm thinking of Dr. Zhivago, like all these things where it's mind crimes and thought crimes and, you know, Big Brother, and, you know, you can't have a conversation, you can't ask what's the news, you can't, the flow of information has stopped. And now we're just whatever we are. People could honestly be people could be walking off the earth and falling down into the abyss. And I wouldn't know about it because they wouldn't be reporting it, and I won't find out until I'm falling into the abyss myself. And that's what I feel like. And I feel like I probably should be doing something, but my gut instincts aren't telling me jack shit. I don't see a path anywhere. I don't know what the hell's going on. Celebrities seem to be doing whatever they want, you know, getting engaged, hugging people on the set. You know, it seems like life's moving on for them and they're all happy about it, but the rest of us are like, what the fuck's going on? You know? Something's got to give, something's got to blow up. There's got to be a way. There's something has to happen to make people rebel against this, or make a stink or something. There's just nothing is clear. Even like, say you were at war or the world was ending and there was, you know, dinosaurs falling from the sky or God knows what, it would be clear. You know, nothing is clear. It's almost like there's no, like I said, no information. How the hell are you supposed to know what's going on unless your head's so far up your ass that you just say, okay, well, I'm gonna do what I can do and screw everything, and I'm gonna move to another state. And if that state ends up being great or wonderful, who cares? I'll move somewhere else later on. It's just, you have to be supremely confident, have a bunch of money in the bank, and just think the rules don't apply to you to do anything right now. So it's like the people who, the elites and the rich and people who weren't really affected by the pandemic, and people who are narcissists and full of themselves, and people who just don't care about the larger world, they're going to make it. And they're going to be the ones to inherit this world. Who I don't know who wants it. Like I said, I don't think I want what's coming. Maybe they'll make it great. Maybe once they're rid of all of us, or they eat us, or whatever they do, maybe the world they create will be great for them. You know, and that'll make me sad if the bad guys win. But I really have the sense that they are winning. You know, and that maybe it'll be a couple years of uncomfortableness for them, but then they'll emerge, just the 1% or the 3% or whatever, and the rest of us will be a forgotten thing, and integrity and decency and good people and happiness will be cast aside and just forgotten about. And it'll be that world of drones and, you know, fake life, but they're fake people, so they'll take their selfies, you know, living their fake life, and it won't seem different to them because they've never been real. That's my philosophizing, to talk about absolutely everything I could think of for half an hour, because I didn't know what else, half an hour, for an hour, because I didn't know what else to do with myself. I needed to get some ideas out. They're all out now. My brain feels empty. Congratulations to me. I am now going to lay down because I am an old person and it's past my bedtime. I'm not going to, I hope I don't sleep. I hope I don't sleep. Maybe I'll say something of value someday. I doubt it. I'm sorry. But when we're all dead and aliens come down and they want to know how it happened, maybe somehow, someday they'll find this. And I'll be like, oh, this fat chick was explaining it. Why didn't anybody listen to her? Oh, Earth beings were so dumb. Anyway, later.